So I've just matched with someone on Tinder, history student, Game of Thrones fan, dislikes the Robbie Williams song Angels. Hello everyone, it's Jack from WhatCulture.com, and what a weekend of wrestling it's been. We've had Death Before Dishonor over in Ring of Honor, we've had NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 2, and of course we've had the big one, and by the big one I mean the 4-hour-long show, 6 if you include the pre-show. That's right, SummerSlam. But was it a good show or a bad one? Let's find out whether there were more ups or more downs. First, let's start off with an up for the set, because for the first time in a number of years, SummerSlam had a pretty unique, fresh feel. The stage looked really cool, as you can see from the picture. The ring posts were like pretty fluorescent tubes, and as we'll find out later on, pretty objects in wrestling always lead to an up, and ugly objects always lead to a down. If you saw the show, you'll know which ugly object I'm referring to. Now we have the first down of the night, because obviously Sami Zayn was on the pre-show. Dave Meltzer had a few things to say about this. He said, Sami Zayn fans, you're so impatient, you should, think about the long-term scenario for Sami Zayn. And while I do agree to an extent with Meltzer, I also think that missing out on what is ostensibly the second biggest card of the year, is a bad signal of intent from WWE. You want Zayn to be consistently on those pay-per-views in meaningful, progressive matches, and instead he's stuck on the pre-show with Neville, another guy who could really have done with being on the main card, and the Dudley Boys. Thankfully they won, but that's not really enough to save it for me, so that's a down. And the last point on the pre-show, I won't talk about the massive tag match because there was so much going on, I didn't really know whether to give it an up or a down, but what I do know is that Cesaro v Sheamus was certainly an up. This was of course the first match in their best of 7 series, and shockingly, against all odds, it looks like the series could be okay. We often forget that Sheamus is a very capable wrestler because his character's been so bland for so long. And Cesaro, of course, is dynamite in the ring. So the two put on a really hard-hitting, good pre-show match. It was good. Sheamus got the first win. We'll see how this progresses in the future, but for now, that's definitely an up. Sadly, we now get to a down, the first down of the main card, because Vince McMahon hates hometown heroes, doesn't he? Enzo and Cass came out, popped the crowd huge, cut a promo, dropped in various references to songs from New York, Empire State of Mind, New York, New York, that one that I had a dream, I used to read a magazine, I think it's Notorious B.I.G. If I've got that wrong, I'm going to get slaughtered online. And then they lost to Jericho. Now, obviously you don't want Kevin Owens to look weak, he's one of the biggest, brightest up-and-comers in WWE, but at the same time, why was Jericho there? He should surely have taken a pinfall and made Enzo and Cass look strong with a win over a very established superstar. Instead, the heels won, and I'm going to give that a down. Next up, another strange booking decision. Charlotte regained the Women's Championship from Sasha Banks. Everyone thought Sasha was going to retain in the weeks leading up to the show. It seemed strange to have her drop the belt in her first pay-per-view defense since winning it on Monday Night Raw from Charlotte. Susie Kennedy, our very own Susie Kennedy, came up with a theory that Sasha's either injured, about to be hit with a suspension, or about to go on her honeymoon because she got married recently. So whether it's one of those 3 things or a combination of all 3, nobody really knows. Maybe it was neither, maybe it was none of those. Either way, it seems like a very, very curious one. So I'm going to give that a down as well. But it's not all doom and gloom for the women's division, because I will give the match itself an up. The two put on a very ambitious match which got mixed reviews. There was a lot of dangerous spots on the top rope. Sasha Banks seems to love landing on her neck these days, and she certainly scared the life out of everyone when Charlotte kicked her legs out from under her. She fell off the top rope and landed right on her neck. She was talking to the referee for quite a while after that, powered through, finished the match, fair play to her. But, ooh, that was a scary moment. But, the two put on, if not, one of the better matches of the night, certainly one of the most intense and dramatic matches of the night. So, even though it wasn't a perfect match or the best match in either women's career by a long stretch, I'm still going to give it an up. Next, we have the Intercontinental Championship match between The Miz and Apollo Crews, and I feel slightly harsh giving this one a down because no matter which way the match went, I was probably going to give it a down anyway. The feud had been a very muted one in the build-up, and even though The Miz won, which I think is the right call, I don't think Apollo's been built well enough to be a champion at all at this stage of his career. There's still hope for him, but not at the minute. He's just a smile who can do flips. I'm still going to give it a down. It was flat. It was one of those matches where you really think, I'm just going to get through this one and maybe there'll be something good after it. Now we get to unquestionably, undisputedly the match of the night, AJ Styles v John Cena. Everything about this match was absolutely superb. It kind of reminded me of those matches back in the Attitude Era where people like Kurt Angle really started to popularise kicking out of a lot of finishers, and that got overused to a degree. But in this specific instance, I think it definitely worked. Cena's a really strong, figure. He can afford to kick out of a few finishers. AJ Styles is an up-and-comer, at least in terms of WWE, and he's being portrayed as hot shit, if you'll excuse the swearing. It was a brilliant match, and the right man went over in the end. AJ Styles won. Hopefully, he can then become the #1 contender to the WWE Championship and win it. That's an up. Now we have the New Day featuring Jon Stewart versus the Club. This is obviously a down, lads. It was a decent match. Kofi Kingston did maybe one of the best planches I've ever seen, where he turned and posed like he was in SSX Tricky or something, or Tony Hawk's. But generally, the match was a bad one, wasn't it? Not because of the in-ring action itself, but because of John Boy Stewart, who came out and interfered for no reason. No one wanted him there, and then the Club went to hurt his balls on the ring post, and then Big E came out and saved him, and then the referee rang the bell and it was a DQ. So the Club won, as many of us thought, but they didn't win the belt. I never thought I'd want the New Day to lose the titles, but really the Club deserved it. I think they needed that push, and now it's been ruined by Jon Stewart. Down. Next, and it's another one that I feel harsh about giving it down to. I am giving it a down, but both men put in a good effort. It was the WWE Championship match between Ambrose and Ziggler. The problem here was that it was very predictable. We all thought what was going to happen happened. Dean Ambrose won. He hit a single Dirty Deeds. I was surprised about that, actually. I thought Ziggler might have been portrayed as a more brave figure than he was. He fell victim to just one Dirty Deeds and got pinned. Everything Dean said about Ziggler is being true. He is a loser. He can't get it done. It's very strange. Where does Ziggler go from here? Where can he possibly go from here now that he's been proven to be a genuine mid-carder? It's a strange one. I mean, I wouldn't have blamed WWE for keeping the belt on Ambrose, but they could have done something better with Dolph. And in the end, they just did what everyone thought they would have done, so that's a down, I'm afraid. Next up, we have the multi-women's tag match, which saw the return of Nikki Bella, Mrs. John Cena. What a woman. And then the heels won, but they shouldn't have won. The faces should have won, because, Becky needs a win. Carmella probably needs a win. And who was the third one? Damn. Naomi, of course, I forgot who it was because her gimmick's freshened up a lot recently, that's why, obviously. No, Naomi needed the win as well because she's one of the most underrated women in the women's division. All three of those girls could have done with a win, and instead they gave it to the heels. Nikki Bella got the pinfall. She doesn't need that, does she really? That's a down. That's absolutely a down. Abysmal. Next, we have the unveiling of the Universal Championship, aka the TNA Midcard title, aka the Women's Championship with a bit too much red paint on it, aka Shinsuke Nakamura's jacket skinned and placed over the top of a belt. It looked atrocious. And if you go on the YouTube channel, WWE have actually put up the moment where Stephanie and Mick Foley reveal the belt, and you hear the crowd go, oh, like they've just seen like a grisly sort of animal carcass on the road, which is actually that's actually a really good point. Anyway, it's a down. It's a down. It's so bad. But calm down, because obviously Balor v Rollins was a decent match. I had slightly higher expectations because both men are obviously fantastic, but it was still a good match. I'll definitely give that an up. Both men put in a monumental effort. They came out with some really cool stuff. It just wasn't quite on the level of Cena v Styles, which burned out the crowd. But it was still, I'd probably say, the second best match of the night. And it was a bold move to put it on Balor. I disagree with it, but I can't drag WWE down for doing it, because they said they were going to start a new era, and this really seems to be the first legitimate step in making it a new era, so fair play. Next, we have the penultimate match. Well, it wasn't a match, was it really? Between ultra wedding-crashing heel Roman Reigns and valiant good husband babyface Rusev. And Roman just didn't want the match to happen, apparently. Well, Rusev jumped him at the bell, but then Roman got a chair, and they had a messy brawl. And the match never got started, it just got thrown out, and I just don't see the point. And you could tell the crowd were just going, why on earth? And Richard, the editor's just gone, what? Like I'm sorry for spoiling the event for you. However, don't watch that match, Richard. It was bad. It's a down. It's a down. It wasn't even a match. And finally, we get to Lesnar v Orton. Now, this one's going to divide opinion either way. Some people are going to be cross at me no matter what I say. I'm going to give it a down. If this had happened anywhere else on the card, I could have understood it. Obviously, Lesnar beat the shit of Randy Orton and legitimately sliced him open with an elbow. And if you see a picture of that cut, it's a nasty one. And then the referees waved off the match. And no one's really sure how much of it was a work and how much of it was a shoot. I'd like to think it's leaning slightly more towards a work. And they just said, free reign, beat each other up. Orton, are you all right with it? And he went, yeah. I think that's probably what happened. However, there's no way of telling for definite. If this had happened anywhere else on the card, I'd have been absolutely fine with it. But the fact that it's the main event of SummerSlam, it's just not the way to close a show, is it? The fans were chanting for Goldberg. They wanted something to happen. They wanted someone to come out and do something. Well, someone did come out. You know, it was Shane. It was Shane-O. And then he got a big F5. It's definitely a down. I'm annoyed that this was the main event. What can you do? So that's all we've got time for this week on Ups and Downs. As you can see, the downs have absolutely smashed the ups this time. 10-5, I believe. Now, my closing point is this. Have WWE forgotten how to do their big shows? WrestleMania 32 was a strange show. A lot of people said it felt like it was non-canon. It didn't belong in part of the sort of storyline lineage of 2016. The same could arguably be said of SummerSlam. It's a strange, dreamlike sort of pay-per-view. It stretched on for far too long, and a lot of the matches seem to be kind of throwaway in a way. Hopefully I'm proven wrong in the next few weeks and the storylines progress and everything makes sense, but not too confident of that. I've been Jack from WhatCulture.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Jack_the_jobber. This has been Ups and Downs. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.
This Monday, it's the final episode of WCPW Loaded before our next special, Stacked. But before that, we've got one hell of an episode. Bea Priestley seeks to avenge her loss against Nixon Newell. Joe Coffey and Primate clash under hardcore rules. Team Hendry, as he insists it be called, battles Prospect. Martin Kirby takes on Will Ospreay in a potential Match of the Year candidate. And Aaron Stevens faces off against Big Damo for the WCPW World Championship. Hot damn. Tune in 10 p.m. BST on the channel.